Pete, Papa Pete, the old ass gamer. Pete, Papa Pete, the old ass gamer. If you haven't grown up by the age of 50, you don't have to.
All right, I think we're live. Papa Pete with the Big Dumar. Chris, and you know what? One of the things I meant to ask you while we were chatting beforehand is, how do you pronounce your last name?
That's a good question. How do I pronounce it? I pronounce it Dumaresq.
That's the way I would have pronounced it.
Yeah, it's not how my dad pronounced it, actually. We changed it when he moved to BC. He grew up in Montreal, and he pronounced it Dumaresq.
Dumaresq.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I can see that too. Well, with the S. Well, no, I can see that. Coming from Montreal, I can see that. I've never seen the name before. It's it's a different name. What's the origin of it? It's not French.
Really, the family is from the island of Jersey, right? Channel Islands between France and England.
Okay.
And the origin, the first recorded Jordan Dumaresq was in like 1300 in Normandy.
Right on. Oh, we just got a little bit of feedback from Gogamego, Jeff from Go Game Go, or Gogamego as I like to call it, says we sound good. So that's a good thing, because like I was telling Chris ahead of time, guys, this is a live stream number 2 for me. So we're trying to get things running. I'm trying to add a couple little things into it, and hopefully it all goes really well. But anyway, chat today, I'm really happy to present Chris Dumaresq, Big Dumar, who is the world record holder as per Twin Galaxies and Intellivision Locket Chase. And of course, Locket Chase being the episode of the 125 that I just released last week. So I was very happy to learn a lot about Locket Chase, so much more than I really, I'll say, than I expected to while I was doing it. And one of the things was finding Chris's world record score and then getting to meet Chris himself. So welcome, Chris. Thank you very much for joining me tonight.
Thanks, Pete. I'm very happy and only a tiny bit nervous to be here.
Well, we'll just gab like we were gabbing a little bit beforehand. So like I said, we're having a good conversation here, but why don't we wait until we're actually on the chat before we talk about all this stuff? Right. So let's a little bit about yourself first. You're in the Vancouver area. You know a few of the guys that we know, a few guys in the
community. I am in the Vancouver area. I've been born and lived my whole life here in the Vancouver area, which does seem to be a bit of a hotspot for Intellivision. Right. I mean, you've mentioned on your time many times Luc Boudreau, and I've done many trades and deals with him over the last year and a half, 2 years. I think I was telling you this summer, I think my car knew how to drive its own way to the garage at the back of Luc's house, because I was buying stuff every 2 weeks to pick stuff up. I remember one time I went to his place, picked up my order, got home, and there was a delivery when I got home, and it was Swords and Serpents, I think, that I had ordered a variant. And when I opened it up, it didn't have the manual. So I went on to Luc's site, and sure enough, he had a manual. So I bought the manual. I mean, I'd literally been at his house an hour ago, and I had already ordered something else from him. So yes,
that's what I call a good customer.
Yeah, and I'm fortunate to, I ran into him a long time ago. We have OEB Pete in town, and I've been fortunate to know Pete for about 10 years.
Yeah.
And I even got to make a trade with the infamous C-Mart about a year ago.
Did you get to see? Oh my God, I'm going to get it wrong. I can't get it wrong.
I didn't get to see the underground lair.
The underground lair, that's it. I always want to call it the Dungeon of Doom.
No, we didn't. We did our shady big Intellivision trade at a dark and dingy, scary IKEA parking lot.
Wow. So in other words, you didn't get a chance. You have to be in the shadows so you can't see C-Mart's face, right? Because nobody knows what C-Mart looks like.
No, it was good, and that was great. I'm hopeful. One day maybe I'll be fortunate enough to get to see the underground lair.
Right on. That's beautiful. So, and not only are you a hobbyist in the video game industry, but you have a lot of that's your career too. It has been for you work.
I've only worked really in one industry, and for the most part for one company with a little tiny side job at one point. And I guess we'll get into my origins of video games, but started with Intellivision, and I guess I'm glad because it led to a career. I started as a video game tester at Electronic Arts. My first game was NHL 2001 PS2.
Wow.
Which was a launch PS2 title. And it was pretty cool working on a game that you grew up playing.
Yep.
Having a PlayStation 2 on my desk 6 months before it ever came out in North America.
Wow. Yeah.
Hanging out with a whole bunch of guys my age that were really into hockey and playing roller hockey every lunch. And during breaks, I was playing Lock and Chase, and I will get into that in a little bit as well.
Right on. So, okay, I can just imagine it now. Okay, you get to see. I can remember, and I think everybody on here is about the same age. They're roughly our age, right? Our generation. And hey, there's the Intellivision collector himself just popped in, and Michael Hayes there, right on. Lance, who else you got? What's that? Jeff's there. Geez, we got a good group on here already for kind of early because it's 6 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock my time, and 3 o'clock your time. But I have a hard time because the world's a different place on the West Coast and the East Coast. We're used to doing things in the evening. And I find that the West Coasters, like having it supper time or late afternoon is a more normal thing. Like one thing I always notice with hockey, for example, hockey games, which of course Canada and Switzerland's playing here in a few minutes. We're interrupting that, but this is totally worth it. I can remember going out west one time to visit a family, and their routine was when supper was being served, the hockey game was coming on. Whereas for us, it was the last thing you did in the evening was watch the hockey. And so it's not as abnormal for you to be doing this or in the afternoon.
Yeah, you know what? I honestly didn't give a lot of thought to it, and perhaps I should have. That I'm like, I'm not thinking as a YouTuber that you have a global audience and people watching on the West Coast. All I know is that, I'm in the second week of 2 weeks off of work, so I don't even know what day it was.
Yeah, and
like
exactly. And I've been away for the weekend, and I just got back this afternoon, but I actually left on Sunday, back on Tuesday. But right now it doesn't matter anymore because we're all sort of off. Lucky for us. And I just took us totally off track. Totally.
Yeah, I could go through a lot about. I've ended up working, and it's incredibly rare in the industry. I've been with Electronic Arts for 20 years. Hit my 20th anniversary this year, which is really bizarre, but I've had many, many different jobs over the years. I've been a tester. I've managed QA teams. I've been a development director, managing development teams. Worked awesome. In a project management office. And now, I guess it may sound the least sexy out of all of those, I manage a data engineering team. But one of the upsides is I haven't worked on any one game in many, many years. I've done a lot of work from a central team supporting all the other teams around the world. Gotcha. So I get to interact and in one way or another interact with all the teams that Electronic Arts has around the world.
That's it. I used to on your desk. Before I went on the tangent, I said that we're all roughly about the same age here because we all remember how crazy it was trying to get a PS2 back at that when it came out. What was that, 99 or 2000 or whatever it was?
Yeah.
And you couldn't friggin' find one anywhere, and they were on eBay for like $1,200 and stuff like that. It was just, and here, you'd been playing it for 6 months just being together.
It was very cool, and I was lucky too. EA managed to secure, I don't know, however many hundred that they were able to. We had to buy them. We still bought them full price.
Okay, yeah.
Nevertheless, I was able to get one on launch day, which was also really awesome.
Nice. And you knew what games are coming with it, I mean, in the position that you're in, do you assume that every game's a great game when it's released, even though it may or may not take off?
Did I not tell you I was a tester for many years?
Yeah, I know, but you got to think, okay, this is terrible. Why does it get released? That's just a dumb question.
I'm a chronic, less so in the last 5 or 6 years, but for a lot of my life, I was an absolute chronic video game review reader and then watcher when they really switched to a lot of videos. Gotcha. I love watching them. And so, no, I mean, absolutely. I think I understand a lot of the reasons. I may be more sympathetic to a lot of the reasons why things go bad, but absolutely things go bad. It's, double-edged sword nowadays of hey, you can patch it. So, it doesn't need to be perfect when it goes out versus the absolute terror 20 years ago when you shipped a game. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
The disc was pressed, and you were on vacation, and you were just hoping that nothing terrible was found.
Yeah, that's like did you catch a little blurb at the end of my video there? It talked about where they had the bug in the ROM for Lock and Chase when the Intellivision one.
Yeah,
and at that time, how crazy that would have made them at the time. Like that just would have been the worst case scenario, wouldn't it have been? Because I mean, they've invested, they pressed I don't know how many thousands of these ROMs, and it's not working, or it's not matching.
Oh, absolutely. And in that case, where the checksum didn't add up, they were. You don't know what the problem is. Like, what error was introduced? Like, what could have happened here? So great that they figured that out.
It would have, and obviously it would have done nothing. Like, right? It wouldn't have affected the game at all. But they had no way to know that.
You don't know that, though. I mean, I'm not an expert on cartridges, but I remember some just unbelievable bugs on discs where everything was good. Someone makes the tiniest change, and it moves a file from one layer to the next. Or moves, which pushes it from the inside of the disk to the outside or whatever. And the seek times get too long, and you caused a crash because you made the tiniest, safest change that nobody would have thought would cause a problem.
Yeah. Mike on here said about the B-17 bomber crunch too. I think he just means that where the numbers, it's the overwrite or checksums with the scoring system. You could bomb. What was it? You could bomb England and drive the cat under. That did affect the game. At least this one with the names, it wouldn't have actually done anything on screen.
Well, did you know there's another pretty bad bug in Lock and Chase that does get referenced too often.
Oh, is that the one is where the man can go out in the tunnel and then go up sideways or something? Yeah.
And if you get outside the map, and if you go up to the top where the score is, your score just rolls up like incredibly quickly. My friend, and we'll talk a bit later about the person I was competing against for the high score.
Yeah.
One night he discovered this accidentally, and he rolled up his score to a huge score. And when I came in the morning, there was just a sign on my TV because, hey, we were video game testers. Everyone had TVs and VCRs at their desk. It said press play, so I did, and he had like this crazy score, and I couldn't believe what he did. He only showed me later that he'd done it using the bug. So yeah.
Wow. And who knows? Like, okay, well, we won't go into it yet, but suppose what was 888,000 might have had something to do with that.
You never know.
Anyway, we'll never know that.
One thing
C-Mart's in the house.
Hello, C-Mart.
Right there. How you doing, man? Tell me, okay, just not too much, but tell me a little bit more. You said OEBP'd as well a little bit from back in the day. So that's interesting for everybody here. Good bunch of guys here. Everybody knows OEBP.
Yeah. I'm going to dish all the dirt on OEBP. I've known for 10 years. That's what we're here to do. No, I mean, Pete is that guy you see on his channel. It's hard to believe until Carey Price lets in a bad goal, and then you see a different side of Pete. So
yeah, there you go.
I met Pete actually. I mentioned I had always worked at EA, and I have, but for about 3 years there, I took a part-time job teaching as part of the game design program at Vancouver Film School. And that was quite an experience and a lot of fun and a lot of work, but I did enjoy it. Eventually, when I had my second child, it just became, I needed to simplify my life, and I had to cut that out. But my very last class I ever taught, yes, Pete was one of my students. And, before the meeting, I actually looked it up, and for some reason, I didn't record the score of the final project. I guess I just uploaded it into the system and forgot about it because I was done at that point. But going into the final project, Pete's team had the highest score out of all the teams in my class, and Pete had the highest grade on his team. So yes, Pete had the highest grade in the class. To nobody's surprise.
So you're bragging him up. Oh, there's a dirt on him. He sits there and he brags him up. That's so cool though, because it's a small world. I really think these things go together, like video games, the love of video games, the love of film, the love of movies, and to be involved in both those aspects. My son just graduated, I guess it would be a year ago, June, from Screen Arts at the NSCC, the same one that Jason Eisner went through, the same program. Jason Eisner from Hobo the Shotgun and Dark Side of the Ring and such. And he's working. He's finding work in the field. So he just loves it. Right? I mean, but that's his aptitude, right? So that's his aptitude. Other things, he's not going to be a mathematician, but he does that, and he's like just
pretty good,
almost, incredibly talented at doing stuff like that. So
so I got to see, Pete being a collector. I'd run into him at game stores or Vancouver Retro Gaming Expo. So we were able to keep in touch, and there's not many of my students I knew after 10 years, but Pete's one of them. One of the
Right
few.
on. That's so great to hear. So let's talk about your history with with gaming, video games. How long have you played video games? Are you I'm trying to think. I'm gonna guess you're in your 40s.
I am, yeah. I'm a little younger than a lot of the people I find for whom like Intellivision, Atari was the thing in their lives. For me, that was Nintendo, Super Nintendo. I got to admit, I was born in '77, so I got an Intellivision in '82, Christmas '82. So I was 5 years old, and it was huge, and I loved it. But it wasn't the level of a lot of people where they buy the magazines and they're talking with their friends and they're deciding what cartridges they want to buy. For me, a cartridge showed up once in a blue moon, and that's how the world worked. And I didn't really question that. That's just what it was. So, as much as I loved my Intellivision, I didn't really drive what games I got. I didn't, look at magazines or anything like that.
Well, that's the age. But so maybe because you were five is young for Intellivision, basically at the time. Really, it is. There's a few games that were good for younger than that or that age group. Let's say. But I think it goes to show something but you developed a love for television more and more in the future.
Oh, I mean, it was my video game system for until I got an NES in I guess '87. It was a bit late on the NES too. So, I mean, that's 5 years I had that, and that's all I had. And I guess we can't remember a lot of the details early on, but boy, I remember playing a lot of NBA basketball with my dad. I remember golf with my parents. Somewhere out there, Tommy Tallarico is smiling about this little discussion. But that's what it was. It was what I did with my parents. We played games together, which is amazing to me because my parents were a bit older than average, especially my dad for a kid my age. And last time my mom was here, I asked her, I was like, why did you buy an Intellivision? Like, what made you do that? This isn't something that I would think would resonate with you. And she's like, well, our next door neighbor had one and we were over visiting her and she showed it to us and it looked interesting and I had fun. So next Christmas I decided to buy one. I remember playing Lock and Chase as a little kid, but I was too afraid to leave the safety zone there. Played did I say Night Stalker? Too afraid to leave.
Night Stalker, yeah.
Played Lock and Chase. And then, after that, I love Treasure of Tarman. So obviously I had to be a little bit older, I think, to get into Treasure of Tarman, but I did. So, it was there for the early simple games, the good old sharp shots, and then advanced games all the way until, like I said, 86, 87.
You don't hear of very many people bringing up Sharp Shot very often. If I was at Sharp Shot, that's the official game of Rick Reynolds.
That's right. Absolutely. I'm sure it's going to be on his top 10 on the next Intellivisionaries.
I think everybody here, at the very least, anybody who's in this room right now should be doing up a top 10 list and sending them to Nurmix by January 8th. He's looking for them for the top 10 list for the next episode of the Intellivisionaries podcast. So see what kind of different games be on there. But I figured people are saying it's going to be Carnival and Sharp Shot will be all 10 of Rick's picks, but we all know that. Anyway, now that's cool. So you did play Lock and Chase when you were a kid.
I did, yes. I don't know if I was good at it. I don't have any scores. For my life, whenever I got a new video game console, I gave away the last one to a local kid who didn't have anything. So all those games, were given away and any scores I might have written down. So
when did you get it back again?
Well, that gets into the story of the high score. So we want to go there.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go there. Do they sort of go hand in hand? Did you decide to go for the score before you got the system, or did you have the system and then decide to go for that score?
No. So here's how it worked. It was 2000, I believe. I know. Yeah, it was 2000, and like I said, I was working as a tester, EA Sports. I was working on NHL 2001, and one of the other testers on the team, a guy named Brad. You might recognize his name. He's second place on the world record list.
I'm going to bring that up right now. You just keep going, okay?
Yeah. A third guy on the team, a guy named Lauren. He bought an Intellivision and a bunch of games off the classified ads within EA Canada. I've made a lot of great scores off the EA Canada classifieds over years, by the way. But he bought Intellivision and a bunch of games. And one day on a break, me and Brad were looking at this box, and we were going through it. And he had an Intellivision as a kid too. And we were just going through the games and talking about it, and we'd see a game and go, oh yeah, I remember that. And we got to Lock and Chase, and it all flashed. I if you'd asked me before, I probably wouldn't have remembered it. But when I saw the box and I saw the game, I was like, oh, I did. I played this. I like this game. So again, luckily, being testers at a video game company, we are surrounded by TVs and VCRs, which will be relevant in a bit. We hooked up the Intellivision, and we started playing it on breaks and at lunch and at dinner breaks because we were working a lot of overtime as well. And we just started having fun. And the game we played was Lock and Chase. I mean, it was kind of funny. Everyone else is on breaks would play Counter-Strike because we're on the network, and but we were there playing Lock and Chase. And Brad, I'll get into Brad a little bit. Brad is an incredibly competitive, perfectionist gamer. Maybe one of the best game testers I've ever seen. He could find bugs just from the description of a design. He didn't need to test it. He just intuitively knew how to find bugs and knew what worked and didn't work in software. And so Brad, here's an example of that actually. He any old fans of Need for Speed games out there, if you go back and look at some of the old Need for Speed games, I know for sure Need for Speed 3, if you look in the credits, he's in the credits as a tester, but he's also in the credits under special thanks where it says Brad Porteous, the Speedline King. And he was so good at racing games that when the designers had pretty much gotten the track to where they want it to be, they would bring Brad in and have him drive on all the different car classes and get the optimal speed line around the track. Oh, wow. And then they would capture that and use that as the basis of the AI racers in the game. So yes, Brad was an absolute perfectionist, and which is, didn't bode well for me in terms of beating him. In fact, something else he did, this is unbelievable. He programmed his own Lock and Chase in Pascal. He completely built his own version of Lock and Chase. It played and functioned amazingly. And beyond that, he built a level editor for it as well. So you could create your own levels and import them and have and be able to play through your created levels. So maybe there's an idea in there for Amico Lock and Chase user generated levels. But anyways, so that's just the kind of guy Brad was, and we were playing, and we were getting pretty good. And one day someone said, I wonder what the world record is. And we've all seen those things, that were in news or newspapers or whatever, where little Jimmy Smith, played for 17 hours and got 22 million points on asteroids or whatever it is, right? The records were just crazy, right? Sure. So we were just curious, and we went and looked it up, and we were pretty surprised that we had both already beaten the world record. The record,
the record that was there then.
That was there then. We had both already beaten it. Yeah. So we were like, wow, okay, this is interesting. Maybe we should send in our scores. So we started competing a little more seriously, I guess, at that point. And eventually Brad got to the point where he got that, he got his score, 169,000 and change, I think it is. And he sent that in. Yeah, there you go, almost 170,000. Yeah. So he sent that in, I think, to Walter Day. And it was interesting reading some of the emails back and forth with Walter, actually. Again, I've had a chance to communicate a little bit with Walter over the last couple of years. And his history, and he's an interesting fellow. But his email to Brad was like, Brad mentioned that there were two of us competing. And he said, oh, you should go to a local pizza parlor and put up some posters and get some people to go and turn it into a whole event for your town that people could come and watch you guys compete head-to-head in Lock and Chase. And we were just like, boy, no, there's no reality where anyone wants to watch two 21-year-old guys play Lock and Chase in a pizza parlor. So that was interesting. Anyway,
but you know what? You never know. It's just we're learning more and more that there is. There are people who want to go watch that.
Well, exactly. And I can remember the year we hadn't. There was no Twitch. We didn't know about you. There's no YouTube. We didn't know people were going to watch other people play video games. Right? It didn't seem possible.
And remember, 20 years later, we're sitting on a YouTube show, 3,000 miles apart, talking about it with a dozen people watching us. So
that's right.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So one of the things I mentioned earlier, we were lucky that, again, we were game testers because one of the rules was when you were testing, you had to record everything you were doing on a VCR.
Sure.
That way, if something bad happened, you could go back. That saved my butt one day on a triple play game, actually. But anyway, so we had the VCRs, so we would just record whenever we played in case that was the world record game. And when Brad got his 169, he sent the tape in, and sure enough, he was on the website as the official world record holder. I tried my hardest for a couple of weeks. I even took the console home, which again, I didn't own. It belonged to another guy.
Yeah.
I took it home one day, and it's interesting. Earlier, I mentioned the bug where you get outside the maze and go to the top, your score rolls up. Not many people know this, or I haven't read much about it, but if you die on top of the game over text, you get a little bonus points as well.
You get what?
You get bonus points if you die where the game over text is.
I did not see that.
So I was really close to the record, and I was like, all I need to get down is to the game over text and die, and I'll have the record. And so I went down. Should turn mine off too. I went down to I was like, I'm going to go down to the game over, and I'll get the record, but I died. I didn't quite make it to the game over. I was just pixels away, and that pretty much broke me, and I was done. I didn't get the record, and I gave up, for at least a year and a half.
Right.
I didn't play at all. And then it was a really slow time at work. I was working on like Tiger Woods PGA Tour 2003, the PC online components. And it was early and really slow on the project. So I asked my friend Lauren if I could haul out his Intellivision. He said yes. So I hooked it up at my desk and just started playing it on breaks, and frankly, more than breaks, because again, I wasn't that busy at that particular time. And within a day or two, I started getting good scores again. And I think it was only a few days, and I set that score of 217,000.
Wow. Okay, let's jump right into where did the 888 pop in?
So, yeah, I mean, that's where it was. I had the record, and that
had
was
the record.
this year, 2002.
Yep.
And then a few years later, something like 2005, 2006, I don't remember exactly. I was telling someone that I had this record, and I was like, here, I'll show you the website, and went to Twin Galaxies and went to the webpage, and my jaw dropped when I was in second place. And yes, famous gamer Todd Rogers had a score on there of 888,000 even.
And we were talking about this earlier, and Todd Rogers, who we probably all are familiar with, but I can remember I got this back in Fredericton, New Brunswick back in 1983 with my brother-in-law, and I've just always had kicking around. It's reviews of all kinds of old games, and it's going to be affiliated with Twin Galaxies, because all the players in it are ones that, let's see, get that right there. There's Todd Rogers right there for back in 1983. So he's always involved in that. And of course, the scandals with Dragster and everything else, and obviously this one too. So what happened?
So I saw it there, and I remember people were like, "Oh no, is Chris gonna like freak out?" But I was really happy because it wasn't like he had just beaten my score by a little bit. He quadrupled it. Yeah. And I mean, then when I went to look it up online, because I remember it said his high score mine was by video, but his was referee. And I was like, what does that mean, referee? Was there like some sort of lock and chase tournament? Like, what was this? Yeah. So I went online, and I went to, the old haunts of like Digital Press and Atari Age, and poked around a bit. And, what I saw was everyone was like, Todd is a great gamer and, absolutely trustworthy and honorable. So I had no reason to doubt anything. I was happy. If it took one of the greatest gamers of all time to beat my score, and he quadrupled it, I was out. I was done. I changed my resume to say former world record holder, Logitech television, and that was it. I forgot about it.
Yep.
I mean, I would still tell the odd person who could care, but not many people care, I'll tell you. So
that's awesome.
I mean, that's where it's sat until, there was forget the YouTuber, but a video was posted about, like you said, Dragster and some other stuff, and it kind of snowballed from there. And then I, wake up one morning and look at Reddit. It's like, famous gamer, like New York Times, famous gamer loses records. I'm like, uh-oh. I look at it, and it was Todd, and then I went right to Twin Galaxies, and this was early 2018, and sure enough, his name was gone, and I was back in first place.
You were back on top. So, okay, and we discussed this really briefly, and I wasn't aware of it at the time, but I do know, of course, right from back in, I mean, he's been around in that group forever, and there's always been lots of controversy amongst that Nick group at Twin Galaxies. Who was making you told me, what was Todd Rogers' position with Twin Galaxies?
Yeah, I mean, when when my friend Brad sent it in, I believe he sent it to Walter, the tape.
Yeah.
When I sent it in, it had moved to Ron Corcoran, I forget. But shortly after that, my understanding is that, and I'm not an expert here, but my understanding is that Todd became the person you sent the Intellivision and 2600 and sort of the really that generation retro arcade scores went to Todd, and he was the referee. And at that point, that's when I learned that, when it said referee next to his name, it didn't mean he was in a tournament and a referee saw his score. It probably meant that Todd set that score, and because he was the referee, he input the score into the high score database. I have no reason to believe he didn't do it. I have every reason to believe in many ways, in many games, he set incredible records. So I have no inside information. All I'll say is that, I think Twin Galaxies should have avoided the potential perception of a problem and just not had one of your record setters be the referee who inputs the scores, especially for their own scores.
Multiple records too. I mean, he had several records, I'm quite sure. So it doesn't give it much credibility. You would think you would have a person at arm's length overseeing it. Like, for example, if I was the referee for all of these scores, I mean, I set so many records like these games that, I could never possibly do it. Like that's ever going to happen. But it doesn't, it's just not the right thing to do. And then at the end of the day, you don't know that he didn't properly do it, but obviously somebody's made a determination. And the point that I made to you was that they're a pretty tight knit group. And if I don't believe that if those accusations weren't true and very well founded and well proven, they never would have brought him to light. He never would have lost his record. So it has to be very concrete. Yeah. So on that note, I mean, we've watched you play the game. I've had little clips of my video, and I think it's a good time right now. Maybe we should bring that video up here and take a look at it, let it go. We're here for a little bit. It's about 25 minutes long. We'll let it play. You can tell us a little bit about it. We can just talk about some other things.
Sure.
How's that sound?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Here's my secret shame for all the Intellivision and retro gamers out there.
Okay.
I haven't played Lock and Chase probably since the day I set the record. I own an Intellivision. I have a big Intellivision collection. I just eclipsed 300. I'm not C-Mart. I just eclipsed 300 boxed copies. I have an Intellivision, but I don't really have a TV to play it on right now. I have the flashback, and it's hooked up to a TV in my desk at work. Unfortunately, that's in my office, and I haven't been in my office in 9 months now. So I played the flashback in the last 20 years, but that's about it. The only additional Lock and Chase I played, there's another great collector in Vancouver who I think he got his 125 named Derek. And I was doing a deal with him one day, and he had the Ultimate flashback with the RetroPie or whatever inside, and he had the 8-bit Lock and Chase there, and the 8K Lock and Chase, the one that you showed on your stream there, and so I played that just to see if it was any different, and I didn't really notice any difference, but again, I was only playing it for maybe 10 minutes.
Who did I say something to online? Before I go there, I'm going to talk about the 8K. Is the sound too much on the stream, guys? Let me know if it is. I'm not sure what. This is the first try with this. It seems to be it looks pretty good to me on the screen. This is Chris's original VHS copy digitized on YouTube. So you'll see some VHS such in it, and that's. But this is the game, the world record game right here being shown now. I played for my gameplay video, which I always like to do a gameplay video that just goes through it to accompany my 125 videos. I didn't feel or see any difference in the 8K version either with the controls. But for whatever reason, I did a lot better with the 8K. There's just things about it. It's just not incredibly distinct, but it's just subtle enough of improvements that you can play the game better, to me.
And it could be. And again, I mean, it's hard for me to compare since it had been many years at that point, 17, 18 years since I last played it. But, that's one thing I would like to do is I do want to play that. It was just such a kind of a legend there that this other version existed. And,
yes,
I don't think it ever actually got released. We would have found it by now.
Yeah, exactly. That's
very cool that on the homebrew side they've been able to make a version of it.
I mean, the ROM's there. The ROM's official.
Yeah,
the ROM
that's it. That's right.
So as far as I'm concerned, it just didn't get the physical release. I mean, that's crash time, right? So why would they release it if they didn't get rid of all the other ones? The original. They had to get rid of those original 6Ks first, which for better or for worse, that was just business.
Yep. For the recording here, when that all went down with Todd Rogers, I had commented after, I guess, his records were taken away.
Right.
I posted on the YouTube channel saying, "Oh yeah, I'm the world record holder in lock and chase," and it said referee for his score, and I wasn't sure what that meant. Well, Todd has a lot of supporters out there as well, and one of them was kind of getting on my case and saying, "Well, how do I know your record's legit? I haven't seen that video." And I'm like, "Well, fair enough. I mean, I sent it into Twin Galaxies and I don't know what they did with the tape, but fortunately, I kept the original tape in my basement.
Yeah.
So a couple of years ago, or a few years ago now, I went through sort of digitizing all the old family videos and photos and whatnot. And so that's when I was like, well, I got to do lock and chase now, just so I can let that rando guy on YouTube know that I actually
did the haters
the record. So that's when I digitized it and threw it up on YouTube.
What a great idea. What a great thing to do. Because, I mean, I watched it start to finish once, just, because it's, okay, here's another thing about it. This is a fun game to watch because it's pretty fast-paced. You get to see the patterns that you like to use. And it's not forever. Like some of the records they're too long to watch.
Exactly.
Okay? Whereas this is reasonable. I mean, this is just a lot of fun to watch, the different things you do. Now, tell us about the patterns you developed in the different screens and where they worked, where they didn't.
I think, because it does eventually break down. I think, on the slow levels, the patterns work, I guess, better because a little more room for error there. And it was a pretty set pattern. I mean, they change where those doors are on the side. And that's the one thing that does change between each level, whether the side door is on the top or on the bottom. And that does make a difference. But the main thing about the pattern was timing it so you knew when the when the money was going to appear in the middle, because you didn't want to be really far away from that when it appeared. Yeah. You wanted to be close, and you didn't want to have a bunch of the police officers around you when you triggered the I always called it the money bags. So you didn't want to be too in a bad spot. So you can see the first one is really. You also know that I can get a whole bunch more points here before it goes away. So really, I think it was the pattern was an opening pattern. It was the pattern to get the first money bag, and then a pattern to get the second money bag, and that's about it. Now this is not a great position to be in there. So,
stay away.
Yeah, I think it only works for about 1.5, and then at that point you're on your own to try and do it. But I think what happens is that when you play it a lot, somehow you intuitively know how many, pellets, dots, coins you need to pick up before it triggers the money bag again.
Okay.
And so you start to get a feel for when it's gonna trigger, and you get a good feel for how much time you can wait until you get it as well before it goes away.
Do you think that the money bag I didn't notice this. Is it triggered by the pellet number, or is it triggered
by the count? Yeah, a specific number of coins will trigger when that appears.
So if you miss one, if you fail to get one, can you still get 4,000?
No, they double every time. So if you miss one, the last one would be 2,000 points.
Okay, gotcha. So you've missed out on that opportunity if it goes by you.
Yeah. So that's again, when you're going for the high score, it is important to get. I mean, that's 4,000 points. That's a pretty big percentage of the overall record. So
absolutely,
you want to get them for sure.
Yeah. Now, the camera here, And something else. Okay, I was just looking at the chat here a little bit. Don't use locks up. I found when I played, I didn't use the locks much either. I just didn't. Once in a while, I trap them in a corner like where you are right there. But who's it? Christian is on here saying I'm discovering that I don't. I turned right on. I'm discovering that I don't use the locks enough.
No.
What's your strategy with the locks?
Oh, there's a strategy to run right into the blue guy. Again, during the opening pattern, you see my strategy, which is lock guys off in an area. There's a couple places in the map where if you lock 2 doors, you can confine 2 cops to like a third of the map, a quarter of the map.
Gotcha.
And that really frees you up. You're a lot less likely to be caught by just 2 police. So you can see what I've done there. It's a bit different, but that yellow and blue guy are really not going to come through there unless I go up really high and draw him out.
Right.
Yeah, so it kind of really opens that up. So that's really how I did it, was try to do it to contain them in an area. It wasn't as much to save my own butt while I'm being chased. It was usually to contain them. Yeah.
And I know, like, I believe it was as far as trapping them into a spot for points. If you trap 1, you get 100. If you trap 2, you get 300. I think you told me that, right?
Well, if you trap 1, you get 100. And yes, I honestly forget the score for 2. But you see in my opening move in this game, you can see I've trapped those 2 in that whole corner. That's not a big strategy for you to score points, though, is it? Your points? No, it's not. No, not at all. I think in that opening move, you see I actually trap 3 and get 1,000 points. But that's just because it's level 1 and everything's nice and easy and they don't move very quickly. And I was able to find a way to trap 3 and get 1,000 points. But I wouldn't try that at higher speeds where, wow, I've mixed things up here apparently. You can still see the same idea there. I've tried to trap them all on one side of it. But it was mostly for that. I know I have a friend who actually, another YouTuber, maybe I'll throw him a shout out. His name's Gaming Jay. He's playing through the book, 1,001 Games You Must Play Before You Die.
Okay.
He's over 500 games into it, and another good Canadian guy, actually. And he has another series where he plays games. Ooh. And he played Lock and Chase one time. And one thing I definitely noticed was that he wasn't using the doors hardly at all. So that was my one bit of feedback to him, was to don't forget you have doors. It's the one thing that makes it unique compared to Pac-Man is the doors.
Here's a question from Le Pionnier. I caught it there. Is if there was no possible way to use the tunnel from east to west, would the game be a lot more difficult?
Wow, that's an amazing question. My initial reaction was no, it wouldn't. Somehow in Pac-Man, or Miss Pac-Man, when I use the tunnels on the side, I feel like it's really getting me to escape from trouble. I don't know that I feel that way as much on Lock and Chase. I don't know why. It's an interesting question. It would be an interesting experiment. I'm hoping that Amico Lock and Chase might have some changes there, like doors that move around, or provide a lot of value to use the doors. Gotcha. Kind of thing. Well,
I tell you, that's the guy who's asking. Le Pionnier is actually he is working on developing some an Amico version. He has actually put a lot of time in and been in discussions with the Intellivision Entertainment about different ideas that he's had for additions and changes to Lock and Chase to modernize it and recreate it for the Amico. So we may see some of those in there with.
Well, I'll take the time. I believe Le Pionnier has reached out to me on Atari Age, and I haven't answered his question in a while, so I'm sorry about that. I will get to it in the next little bit.
If I get up and disappear in a second, my chien a entre la porte. He just came in the room and now he's crying and wants out, so I'll have to get up and let him out. But I saw one other question on there from Luke. This is always good too. As watching Pete drink is making me drink too. I'm a day drinker now. Time difference. Here's to it, buddy. Cheers. And I'll find some more maple cream for you too, because I do know that they still have some there. So that's right on. So
I was tempted to bring a beer on here, but I used to host the beer fest once a year. But Doctor's orders. I'm not drinking beer anymore. It's sugar-free Gatorade at the moment.
Oh, I like beer. I don't know. Before I couldn't afford it. Now I can bet drinking a nice Think Brewing Revelation today, and the dog really wants out of the room, so I gotta be right back.
I'll say, Luke, I think we should do it at C-Mart's house. I'll drink a beer there. We'll see the underground lair.
All right. I'll be over.
No shame on my end.
I'll be over.
Yeah. All
right. And also, isn't there something about locking a door on a cop and trapping in the exact spot?
Yep.
You don't get extra points for that, do you? But I know that I've trapped myself in those doors trying to squeeze through them more than anything.
Yeah, you can trap them with one door. I think, in fact, if you see my opening move where I get that 1,000 points, and maybe when this is over, you can look again. I think I trapped them in one door, 3 of them in one door, but I still need to lock the second one to get that 1,000-point bonus. And you can see a lot of this is luring. You're trying to lure someone in. Well, I lock them there. I'm not doing that for the points as much because 100 points isn't that much. Ooh, got me going around the corner there.
You're just giving yourself the space up for yourself.
Yeah, and you can see though, they're better used, I think, when you're confining 1 or 2 of them to a section like I've done there. That blue and the yellow are pretty much, not going to get out of there for a little while. Yeah, and with the heart, you definitely want to hang out around there because 5,000 points is it's enough to be worth it to make sure you get all those points.
And that comes out with timing. The prizes come via timing, right?
Yes, absolutely. Oh, yeah. You know what? I'm not 100% sure on that because they are limited. It's not unlimited. It's not like you could play on the map forever. So,
okay. So if you left like one dot in the corner, let's say, just avoided everything, they wouldn't keep reappearing and reappearing and reappearing.
Right, boy. I mean, if that's possible, then the way forward for a world record might be set.
Sitting on one screen and just waiting for all the hearts to come. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Well, you know what? You'd still need to do it at one of the high point ones. Like the heart, and this is already at top speed here.
Yeah, at this point, the game never gets harder than this, does it?
Right.
Ooh, I tell you,
surprised me. One thing. I don't know if I'll ever forget this, but me and my friend Brad, we're good. We're good gamers. We set the records, but it's not like we're insane elite gamers. There are amazing players out there that we've all seen. The people that are doing speed runs and whatnot. Right. We're not at that level. And if anyone at that level really put some dedication in here and decided they wanted to set the record, they could absolutely do it. It's far from unbeatable. Not even close.
Some records are as much attrition, like to be able to withstand that length of time as anything,
Yes.
As skill, whereas you have your skill, you have your attrition, your top skill. The skill is amazing, but longer and longer and longer. And these are that's part of what I like more about these games nowadays than I don't know. I guess that's not really true either because you look at other records like Pac-Man's and Donkey Kong's games from back in the day, arcade games, and it was days, playing them for days.
Yeah, it is a nice part about this that it doesn't have that long of a time to play. I think the endurance piece of this was that I set this on an Intellivision 2 with the Intellivision 2 controller.
There you go.
And that's not so much fun. Whoa, that was close.
That's a handicap right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it wasn't for me, though, because I grew up with an Intellivision 2. So I've actually only ever played an Intellivision 2 until I played the Flashback. That's all I ever played.
Wow, that's a neat little fact right there. That's something else. Yeah, I have played very little Intellivision 2. 64-bit found me one. My kid found me one at $10 with no. And then Luke sent me out an adapter. That's the first Intellivision 2 that I've actually had like out of the box. I do have one in the box complete. It's never been taken out. I mean, everything's pristine inside of it, so I didn't take it out to use it. And so now I've played Intellivision 2. But I mean, when I'm not playing my Flashback, I'm playing my original setup that was my brother-in-law's back when I was a kid. and it still works crystal clear. That's the one I use in the opening of my gameplay videos. Is that the very original 2609? So,
well,
yeah.
I have mentioned to Luke that I don't have a 2609, and as someone once I've crossed 300 to complete unboxed Intellivision games, it seems like complete heresy to not have a 2609. So yeah, I gotta find that. But I'm a video game collector in general. Actually, I own almost every console. There's a handful of consoles I don't own. You'll be aghast to learn I don't own an original Xbox. I don't own a 5200 or a 7800 or a TurboGrafx 16 or a Neo Geo. But I own everything else other than an Xbox Series X or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Or PS5. So yeah, I own almost everything else, and I collect them all in box. So yeah, I got to admit, I was lucky. I bought all those consoles, 10, 15 years ago when it wasn't completely insane to be buying video games and consoles.
Right. Yep.
But yeah, I got to go pick up that Intellivision 2609 one of these days, just because.
So, what is the status of your Intellivision collection then? Let's go there. You said 300 box games. That's obviously variants.
Yes, I know. I've gone down that awful, hole of variant collecting. Don't do it, but I don't think that'll, matter to much to the people that are watching the video right now. Some of them are worse than me, obviously.
Luke drew me in hard, but he was awfully good to me at the same time.
Well, there you go. Absolutely. And that's Luke. Just for my regular collecting, and I collect for all consoles. My rule of collecting is I only collect games I want to play. So while I do collect for absolutely every console, it's just games that I'm interested in playing. I don't go for complete sets or anything like that. I had about 70 Intellivision games about 4 years ago anyways. And, it was just one of the things I collected. I just got the games I wanted. And then on the Vancouver Craigslist one day, somebody was selling 115 Intellivision games for $1,000. And I mean, that sounds crazy, $1,000 on 40-year-old video games off a Craigslist ad. But, I quickly, did the math, and, I determined it was worth, significantly more than $1,000. So I called the guy up and I'm like, I can't believe, I would ever see something like this on Craigslist. And he's like, I can't believe someone would actually reply to it on Craigslist. So, I ended up, talking to my wife and saying, I want to do something that's completely insane. And my mom was visiting. She's almost out your way, almost. She lives in Newfoundland right now. And, she was visiting, and so I was like, not only do I need to explain this to my wife, but now I need to explain it to my mommy as a 39-year-old or whatever. I can tell her why I'm spending $1,000 on Intellivision games. So, the deal was just too good, though. When you did the math, it worked out. So
there must have been some titles there.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I didn't even know at the time. I got the Congo Bongo as part of that complete box. Congo Bongo was pretty good, and a good selection of some of the really hard to find ones that are in there. So I did that, but that's when my learning of Intellivision really started, actually. Because at that point I had 70, and I had 70 games. Some come in small boxes, some come in boxes with a, with the gatefold, like. Whatever. I didn't know. It was just, the way it was. And it wasn't until I got that collection and I started reading and I started going through Intellivision Funhouse and just reading everything I could that I started to understand, these are Mattel. These are Intellivision Inc. These are Canadian. I thought I had 70, and suddenly I started to go, no, I have 30 Mattel and 8 in Canadian and whatever, 10 Intellivision Inc. And I'm like, so I don't quite. And that's kind of my personality. I have lots of spreadsheets and lists of all the games. And so where I got to was, trying to collect the 125. And I have a specific version I want to get of all of them. And I'm doing pretty good on that. I have 120. Good. So, the 5 that I need are the 5 that are hard to get, right? It's the usual ones. It's other than Congo Bongo, right? It's Spiker and Learning Fun 1 and 2 and Stadium Mud Buggies and Triple Challenge. So doing okay, but you have to get lucky or make some good trades or spend some money to do that.
Are you CIB? They're CIB. completed box?
They're all CIB. Yeah. I'm not.
Did you see my story when I found this one? A few. I don't know if that'll focus in there or not. Oop.
Or it's the triple challenge. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I went onto a website and I've got it for $1.95.
Nice.
Yeah. Out of Winnipeg.
In television collecting, I mean, some of the great things about it is that there's so little information out there in terms of variants. Once you get into the variants, you start to learn that there's a lot of rare variants. But I mean, an average person who's selling a lot on Craigslist, they might know enough to go online and figure out the price of something. But, they're going to go and say, oh, this, math fun is whatever, $10. They're not going to know that it's a FCT VVO version that collectors would pay a lot more for if they knew. So it makes it fun. It makes the search sort of never ending. And then within television, your collection is never in perfect condition. Once you get all the ones you want, you can still upgrade the condition. So that makes it fun, and it's not overly expensive for the vast majority of games.
That's why I do Xbox too. Well, I've been a little negligent on trying to balance this out, pay attention because the stories are great, the conversation is great, but a little bit from the chat, and just we were commenting about the prizes, and I was saying about the being timed, and Michael Hayes says they're triggered by coins just like the money back, which makes
right. Makes sense. I figured that's what it was, but I didn't know for sure.
Yeah, exactly. But I dare say, if anybody knows, Mike knows. If Dr. Pepper sponsor another high score competition for Locket Chase with the new Amico. That would be great. I've just seen Amico. I really don't remember the high score competition back in the day, but I have seen pictures of the pins that were awarded back in the day.
I know.
And here's from Lance for you. Okay, are any of the cops more dangerous or smarter than the others?
My recollection is that I don't know if I'd use the word smarter, but they're different. I think I saw there was a section earlier where the blue and the yellow were completely trapped. And there we go, 217. The blue and the yellow were completely trapped on the side, and green just went right past them and kept going up. So they do follow some different algorithms in terms of what they do. I don't remember. I used to know a lot more about this. I don't remember if they're all four like independent, if they all are completely different, or if there's commonality. But they do act differently. You can lure them, which you saw me doing a lot in the video. I remember that. And, I recall at least one of them. Details have gone from my memory of, ones to be more wary of. If you were in a corner or being chased by them, you knew they were going to continue to chase you until you got some separation. So you might lock a door if you could to stop them from chasing you.
Okay. I'm getting behind. I'm sorry on the chat. I apologize, guys. I have this feeling this one needs to be read from Luke Boudreau. Fun fact: Big Dumar started the whole white box carnival craze. Nobody knew it existed until he brought it up on Atari Age.
Yeah. So the story there is, I don't remember now. What was this? A couple of years ago. I saw a lot on Vancouver Craigslist for Intellivision games, and in it there was this plain white box, and it was clearly had a carnival logo on the front, but it looked like someone lost their box and they photocopied a carnival logo and stuck it on the front, and that was that. And that's what I mostly assumed it was, but I decided to buy the lot because I was into that at the time. I was buying a lot of lots at the time. I think largely it's because there were 5 or 6 or 7 Canadian versions that I didn't have. And so I bought the lot, but I checked that one out first. And when I got it, I was like, well, this is a regular Coleco box. You can sort of tell from the inside, thinner, but it's plain white. And it had a black carnival sticker. It was Canadian. It had the French. And it had the French, the Coleco games, some of them came with the sticker that you could put over top the cartridge to have French text on it rather than English text. That was stuck on the box. So I was like, this is really weird. Put it up on Atari Age. I think I created a new account for that because I hadn't posted there in like 15 years and forgot my account. Created a new account there, and got a lot of great discussion and feedback. CMART was part of that for sure. And I think there was some skepticism because at that point it was just one thing. Like, what is this one thing? It could be anything. So, it was an interesting discussion, but didn't really go anywhere. A few months later, I was going through the Facebook Intellivision group that exists. And I just one day went through all the old sales. Again, you're curious, what was sold? What are the prices? This is how you learn, right? What's going on out there?
Yeah, for sure.
I went back and I saw a really blurry picture, and it had what was clearly a white carnival on it. And I was like, okay, wait a second. And that lot didn't appear to have been sold on the Facebook group. So anyways, I put that on to Atari Age. I was like, hey, everyone, I found another one. It is a real thing, it appears. And this one was in Saskatchewan. So
Okay.
I posted on there, and I was like, it didn't look like it sold, but I was like, I didn't have the guts to call the guy and see if he still had it. So I didn't have the guts, but if you know Luke, he has the gut. So Luke called him up, and the guy, I think, had sold it to a local pawn shop, if I'm remembering correctly. And Luke called up the pawn shop and said, hey, do you have this white carnival? And the guy was like, yeah, we have it. And Luke's like, can I buy it and send it to Vancouver? And he said, well, you got to buy the whole lot. I don't want to, those of us who try to sell Intellivision games know that it's not easy. So, Luke bought the lot and got his own white carnival. At that point, here's the thing. I'll be totally honest here. I like the idea of some of the super collectors who have amazing collections. As much as I'm interested in mine, I try to tightly define what I want, and I didn't need a white carnival. So I was like, I'm gonna offer this up to C-Mart because it turns out that lot of that I bought it for $1,000. A lot of those came from someone who got them from C-Mart actually, and so I knew about him. People talked about him in the community, so I knew he had this amazing collection. And I had read more about all his posts on Atari Age by then. I'd gone through the site with a fine-tooth comb for everything in Intellivision, and I was interested to, and not to mention Intellivisionaries. So I was like, I'm gonna offer and see if C-Mart wants this. Well, just before that, Luke calls me, sent me a message. He's like, hey, are you interested in trading it? And I was like, I was going to offer it to C-Mart. No, I didn't say that. I said I was going to offer it to someone else. So I said, hey, C-Mart, do you want this? He said, yes. I said, look, I am not interested in having any sort of a bidding war. I just think that's ugly. This community is way too good with too good of people to get into that kind of ugly thing of just trying to play people against each other. Now I was awkward, though, because now I didn't want to have two people, and I did. And so, anyways, Luke makes an offer, and it's fantastic. And I'm like, wow. Christian's like, what was his offer? And I'm like, look, here's roughly what his offer was. And C-Mart goes, I'll beat that by a lot. Don't worry. So then I go back to Luke, and I'm like, Luke, I'm going to be honest with you. I offered it to C-Mart, and he says he can beat it. And at that point, since Luke knows C-Mart, Luke, I think, called him up, and at that point, C-Mart goes, I really want it. And I think Luke saw the writing on the wall at that point. When C-Mart wants something, no point in getting in a bidding war against him. So Luke graciously dropped out, and C-Mart and I did the trade in the underground IKEA parking lot.
That's a beautiful story.
That's how that one went down. To no one's surprise, C-Mart was incredibly generous in what he gave me. He gave me 3 towards my 125.
There you go.
I didn't have a whole bunch of Intellivision Inc. I didn't have my first 2 for color TV viewing only versions. And he went through my list, and he got individual carts and overlays that I was missing. And I'm sure when you have a collection his size, that's not easy. So again, thank you, C-Mart, for that.
That is freaking awesome.
From there, after that, Luke found another white carnival on an auction, but it was a sold auction. So we know there's another one out there that someone has. If they know what they have, we don't know because they haven't posted it on any of the forums that we know about. And then I forget how he got it, but Luke found another one, and he did get that one, and his was in better condition than the one that I have. So I think Luke has the best condition white carnival at this point.
Here's one for you to comment on as well, I believe.
Yes. Yeah, I did do that. Because when I first, again, early on in my collecting, you're like, well, this manual's messed up. I'll just take, you're making the best version. You're making those Frankenstein versions. And it was only after that I start to realize, not only, you got your Intellivision Inc. and Mattel, but then you got, the USA, Hong Kong, whatnot, manuals and cartridges. So there weren't too many in my collection that were mixed up on that one, but I have tried to fix that error because that one does bug me a little bit that I did that.
All right. And I think we are through most of the questions that were in the chat. But we've been an hour, a little bit over an hour. We get to watch the entire game, and man, it's you get going at the end of it there, and like I played it, I lost it well before that. Let me tell you, my phone's ringing again.
Yeah, it's like I said when I saw your video, and you were going through all of the icons, the collectibles, and I was like,
yeah,
did you get all the way to level 10?
No,
the video quality switched to VHS, and I'm like, hey, that's my run. I think
that's the one right there. Yeah, and I said, I don't know, and I'm so glad because and it just goes to show you, like the group of people that are in the chat today, all these people, I know a lot of these names now, like almost everybody I've seen before, and there'll be other people who come on and watch this later. The community around the Intellivision is just phenomenal.
Yeah. So
I figured that when that went up, I said, well, whoever Big Dumar is, because I did not know you at all before until you commented. I trying to remember. You commented, I think, first on the video, and it's like, wow, you subscribed to the channel before this one, correct?
Yeah, I did. Yes.
So it's like that's fantastic. It's just a fabulous community, and
it is. And again, the collectors are great, and they're looking out for each other. I mean, I've got several friends. I have their want lists, so I'm always on the lookout for their want list, items on their want list. We were talking about variants. I only need like 4 left for the Canadian collection. 56 of those. I think I have 51. I have 44 of 48 Intellivision Inc. ones. So, I'm getting close. I'm down to the hard ones to find at that point, which is good.
Yeah, but that's part of the quest, eh? That's what makes it so interesting, because when you finally, if it was easy, why would you ever want to even bother to do it?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
If anyone has that B-17 bomber Canadian, let me know. I needed to go with his 2 friends on the shelf there.
Right on. Well, I think we'll probably call it right there. I'm going to take that
What's
off.
the score in the game?
The score is only 2-0 with 17:04 left in the second period. 2-0 Canada over Switzerland.
That's not bad. Swiss is always a stingy team.
I find that they just do not score well, especially with the scoring. They didn't score against Slovakia. I was worried about them scoring against the Swiss because I've seen Swiss goaltenders just totally stonewall them before.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly.
Anyway, thank you so much, Chris, for coming on. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody in the chat for watching. And, man, here's to the Intellivision.
Yeah,
Thanks,
absolutely.
Chris.
Thanks, Pete. Thanks, everyone, for showing up.
I am going to sign off now. Take care.
Bye.